Happy Tuesday and welcome back to The Average Fisherman, everybody. James Bond Martini here because this is going to be a big, good episode. Let me tell you about that. This is the one you've all been waiting for, where we're going to discuss the differences in the RT ratings of Bass Pro Shops graphite rods. So, I never do this in a video. But I'm going to ask you guys now. Please like and subscribe to the channel because, quite frankly, all the information I'm about to give you in this video has taken me weeks and hours. I'm not exaggerating. Weeks and hours to gather all this information to pass along to you guys so that way you can make more informed decisions when you go spend your hard-earned money on new equipment at Bass Pro Shop. So my goal in doing this is to make sure that you're a more informed consumer and that you're not wasting your money or buying equipment that you don't need or don't want, or you're making sure that when you do put that money down for these rods and reels and things of that nature, that you know what you're getting yourself into and you're buying the equipment that's right for you. So please, I honestly feel like I've earned it with this one because 92% of the people who watch and get information from my channel don't even bother to subscribe. So please, like and subscribe like the video and subscribe to the channel because the information I have here has taken tons of effort on my part to get a hold of. So another disclaimer is the fact that there's going to be a couple things that we're going to talk about in this video that I can't disclose. Okay, I'm a man of his word, and if I give somebody my word of honor as a man, I keep it. Okay, that's just how I am. And in a couple circumstances, there are some people involved in the information that I got that I cannot name, and there's one company in particular that I cannot name because I was asked not to, and I intend to keep that promise. So don't ask in the comments for me to DM you or something like that and give you these names because I simply cannot. I made a promise and I intend to keep it. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this after a sip of martini here. What kicked this off was recently I did the trade-in deal, and I had the video recently that you guys all saw. I bought one of these new Carbon Light, Johnny Morris, the updated Carbon Light rods from Bass Pro Shops. Now, in the store and on their online catalog, these are listed as RT4 graphite, okay? And the ones that we're going to be talking about specifically in this video is RT4 and RT5, and what are the differences, okay? So these are RT4 graphite. Very nice rods. I originally started with the Technique Specific and the frogging rod. It impressed me enough that I went ahead and got one of the updated new white Carbon Lights to use with like Texas rigs and stuff like that. And I'm very happy with it. I've used it a couple times. It's a really sensitive, really lightweight rod, and I'm very happy with it. But if you go on their website, you will see these as an upgraded option. This is a Johnny Morris Signature Edition rod, and this comes into play right here. Remember this, because that's super important, and it's going to be super important later on in the conversation. These are listed as RT5 graphite. Okay, they have a little bit different finish. It's just a sanded natural finish. You can see the weaves of graphite, you know, because it's just been sanded down to a black matte finish. But they're slightly lighter than the Carbon Lights. They're a little thinner in diameter than the Carbon Lights, and they feel in the hand and in the water when you're fishing a lot more responsive than the Carbon Lights do. So it started me wondering, you know, I understand that, you know, Bass Pro's RT ratings are just marketing, so that way consumers who go into the store can more easily differentiate the quality of a blank. You know, RT4 is not quite as good as, like, say, RT5, and RT2 is not as good as RT3 or RT4. So it's just a marketing term. It doesn't really denote anything, okay? Evidenced by the information that I'm about to give you now. So here's the part, if you listen to nothing else, okay, this is the main part of the information that gets a little nuance that we're going to discuss further into the video. Both the RT4 and the RT5 graphite rods are made out of the same thing, okay? They are both IM9 85 million modulus graphite. If you go by ton ratings, which is what I'm more familiar with, which is the more European or British standards, it's equivalent to about 42 ton graphite, which is some really high modulus stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like IM9 or 85 million modulus graphite is really, really, really high modulus graphite. Okay, but they're both the same. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quote from one of the vendors, and this is one of the people that I cannot tell you who he is. I spoke to him directly on the phone though. I know him, and I had 3 conversations with him on the phone talking about this issue, and this is what he told me. It's the differences between RT4 and RT5 is not the graphite. It's the other stuff that's used in the rod. So he said, you know, like every rod manufacturer uses their own little proprietary technologies and stuff like that. And, you know, that's what makes up the difference. So, I'm going to be honest with you guys. The difference between this RT5 Johnny Morris signature and the RT4 Carbonlite is the resins that are used when they make the blank. Okay? So you may be familiar with that. If you use Abu Garcia rods or something like that, they list them as like the Power Lux, which also comes into play in a few moments. And you'll see like their lower end rods are Power Lux 100 or 200, and you get to 500 and then 1000. Okay, it's a 3M product that uses carbon nanoresins in order to bond the carbon fibers of the graphite sheets that are used to make the rod at the molecular level under heat and pressure when they construct the rod blank. Okay, so the Carbonlite blanks are made in China. That's no surprise to anyone. Everybody already knows this, but they are using Hexcel graphite. Both of these rods, FYI, use Hexcel's brand of graphite, hence the IM rating. They actually are Hexcel. So in China, these are made for Bass Pro Shops in China using Hexcel branded Toray graphite, and it's used IM9 fibers, but it uses more generic resins. Okay. Now, that shouldn't turn you off from using the rod because it is still a fantastic rod. I've told you that myself. For the money, these things are really nice. Okay, I have nicer rods, don't get me wrong, but for the amount of money I paid for this combination, this is super nice, and they really are sensitive for a 42-ton equivalent graphite rod. The resins show themselves, though, in the slightly increased weight and the slightly bigger diameter of the graphite rod, because if you use nanoresins per se, then the blank can be made thinner because those nanoresins fill up any gaps or faults in the graphite sheets that are used to construct the rod, and you can therefore make it thinner without compromising the strength of the blank, and that's where this comes in. This uses 3M. Okay, I'm just going to tell you guys, these use 3M, the Johnny Morris signature and the new platinum editions that are going to be coming out later this year use 3M resin. Okay, so this one's equivalent to 3M Power Lux 500. Okay, I'm just going to tell you guys that. I can't tell you how I know it. I just know it. Okay. Now, this made in the USA thing. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit. I can't tell you the company that makes these rods for Bass Pro Shops, but I know who they are, and I can assure you that on all the forums, on fishing forums about bass fishing forums especially, everybody mentions this company that makes these blanks, okay? I can't tell you because I gave my word I wouldn't, but it is an American-made company. They do use 3M Power Lux resins in the constructions of their rods, and people on forums that I've read for years now rant and rave about this company's rods, okay? They do make their own rods. They do. And then they make this one specifically for Bass Pro. So the difference between this signature edition and the Carbonlite is not in the graphite used and the specs of the graphite used to make the rod. It's in the resins used to bond those fibers at the molecular level, meaning they can use a thinner wall construction of the graphite, which makes the rod lighter and more responsive. And I can tell you firsthand, it is. Okay. It's a lighter weight rod, and it's more responsive than the Carbonlite is, and it's in the sensitivity between the two is noticeable, but not huge. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys that right off the bat. The Carbonlites are plenty sensitive enough. So if you want to save yourself some money, and you don't, and you're not one of those guys like this guy here that really likes having some higher end stuff, just because I like it, then you don't need to go out and run and get a signature edition like this, because they're both IM9. Okay, they're both 42-ton graphite. They're both 85 million modulus. This one just uses nanoresins, 3M nanoresins, to decrease the wall thickness of the rod blank, and therefore decrease the mass of the rod, and therefore increase the sensitivity. Okay, we've talked about that before on this channel. And this rod is noticeably more sensitive than the carbon light, but the difference isn't enormous. Okay, it's not like the difference between a low end IM6 and going to an IM7 or something like that, because the difference between those two is pretty high, or like a 24 ton to a 32 ton. It's not that big of a difference. It's noticeable but slight. Okay, so this year's signature edition has a slight bit of a downgrade in the guides. Not a big deal for me. I paid $139 for the Johnny Morris signature because I had these trade-in coupons and I still had 2 left. So why not? Okay, that's the main reason I went and got one. So bottom line, guys, with Bass Pro Shops ratings of their graphite, when you're going for the higher end rods, and that's, I consider anything at Bass Pro Shops RT4 or 5, you're getting the same graphite. What you're getting the difference in is the materials used in the curing process of the blank that allows them to use less material overall, meaning fewer wraps and thinner wraps of the IM9 graphite, because of the differences in the resins and stuff like that, and the scrim that is used when the blank is finally constructed. Both of these use graphite scrim, by the way. So the main difference between the carbon light and the signature edition is the use of the Powerlux nano resin to bond those carbon fibers together, that allows them to make a blank that is much thinner and much lighter, and therefore slightly more sensitive. I know I just said much and then slightly, but that's what it amounts to. They both use the micro guides, which I really like. And I'm going to tell you, the signature edition is made in the United States. It is made by a company that makes a lot of blanks for a lot of other companies, including their own, and they're well regarded by pretty much everyone who buys their own branded rods on all of the bass forums that I read. So I have no qualms about telling you that, especially with the signature edition, those are going to be some really good blanks. The Patriots, they use slightly higher strength. They're still IM9, okay, IM9, but instead of 85 million modulus, they're 95 million modulus. So they're about 44 ton instead of 42. They list them as an extra high modulus graphite for even lighter weight. Those still use, it's made by the same manufacturer as the signature edition, and it still uses the 3M Powerlux resin, but the strain rate of the graphite goes from 85 to 95, which allows them to thin the walls out even a little bit more. But when you get to that point, I'm just going to warn you guys, they're still using the same resin as they do in the signature edition, but they're using a graphite with a slightly higher, as in 10 million, which is slight when it comes to pressure and rate of strain for graphite fibers. That thinness is going to start weakening that rod a little bit, which is why I stuck with the signature edition instead of going to the Patriot edition, because they're made by the same company. They use a slightly higher modulus strength, but they use a thinner blank, which decreases the weight even more. And I think at that point, you're getting into a durability issue, even though they have a 10-year warranty. So just FYI, these rods have 10-year warranty. So if you do break one, you can get another one. I just don't want to have to deal with it. But anyway, there's your answer, guys. That took me probably a dozen phone calls overall. I spoke to the actual vendor who gets these rods for Bass Pro Shops, so he knows what he's talking about. It is the guy who gets them, or one of the guys who gets them for Bass Pro Shops. So I have no reason to not believe what he's telling me. And it fits, because I contacted the person, a contact at the manufacturer who made these rods for Bass Pro, and they confirmed everything after a few more phone calls and talking to the right people. So there's your answer, guys. The RT4 and RT5 are both the same IM9 85 million modulus strength graphite blanks. The difference is in the resin and the company that makes them. The Signature Edition, the Patriot Series, and the upcoming Signature Platinum that are coming out are all going to be made in the United States by the same manufacturer that everybody knows, that everybody trusts, and everybody but agrees makes some super good high-end blanks for either building your own rods, or they make their own rods under their own brand name, and everybody loves them. So that's what you're getting when you get the Signature Edition. The Carbon Light uses the same materials with a little lower in resin, but they're made in China instead of the United States. There you go. There you go. The culmination of weeks and weeks of phone calls, texts, and emails for you guys. I hope this helps you make a better, more informed decision when you go to Bass Pro Shops and you're trying to decide between is RT4 or RT5 really what I need. It just depends on how much money you're willing to spend for the slightly higher grade components and the lighter weight of the rod itself. So I hope you guys are having a good week. I'm going to be out in a kayak this week. Tight lines, my friends, and stay safe.